So let's move on
I have a
to
comment.
the adoption of the agenda. Okay, before,
I have a comment.
yep, 1 second, Helen. Okay, you're good. Before we get to the adoption of the agenda, go ahead, Helen.
No, I just wanted to let council know that because media is not identified, that doesn't mean they're not here. I know that Turtle Island, for example, listens on the Facebook. That's why they don't show up on our meetings anymore, because they just sit in the office and listen. So the media can still listen to us. That doesn't mean we have to know where they are or who they are. Just letting everybody know.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. There's community members that also listen to us after the fact, so I completely understand. Okay, so let's move on to the adoption of the agenda for today. Is there any additions that councillors want to add to today's agenda? Hearing none, can I get a mover for the adoption of the current agenda? Thanks, Sherry Lynn. Second by Helen. All in favor? Motion is carried. Today, we don't have any delegations or presentations. So if we can move right along to looking at the political liaison minutes of February 13th. Does anybody have any comments, questions arising from those minutes?
I'll move on to minutes.
Thanks, Carrie. Do I have a seconder? Audrey, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Anybody oppose? Hearing none, motion is carried. All righty, we have our CAP team on the line, right? The Indigenous Rights and Research. So we have before us a recommendation from Consultation and Accommodation Process Team. And so I'm going to read recommendation 6.1 so the community is aware of what we're talking about. So this recommendation discusses whereas the Consultation and Accommodation Process Team provides a monthly report to Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to political liaison on their activities that is accepted as information. And whereas this month's Consultation and Accommodation Team activity report is attached. And I hope everybody read that. Therefore, it be resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council accept the November 2022 to January 2023 Consultation and Accommodation Process Team activity report as information. So thanks, CAP team, for providing that to us and always providing that to us. I know that there was some follow-up. Does anybody have questions in regards to 6.1? Helen?
Yeah, I have a question. Bill 23, is it 23 or 21? Premier Ford's bill.
It's 23.
Anyway, Bill 23 overrides just about anything of the Grand River Conservation Authority. So how is that going to impact this agreement? Because it's overriding, Bill 23 is overriding everybody, including all the conservation authorities for what they want to do with land, stuff like that. So how is that going to impact our agreement with them? It sounds to me like the agreement's kind of useless. No.
Thanks, Helen. Lonnie, Taylor, or Peter? Can somebody provide us some insight?
Ellen, are you talking about the GRNA agreement and not the CAP team activity report?
What?
I'm assuming so. You're talking about the Grand River notification agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was a brief discussion about that and whether there be anything changed, but at the time the Grand River Conservation Authority said they didn't have any details or any on what they would and not be doing. So to leave it the same, because most of it they would be doing from what they understood, it would be continuing as normal for their part in the Grand River notification agreement. I think their duties with on restricting environmental things with proponents would be different, but as for like notification, it would be the same.
Helen, is that clear?
Yeah, but I have another question, not question, but I got a message from somebody about this huge piece of land in Paris the provincial government has sold to a developer. And my question when I read that was, with the Haldeman track in the court case, being in court right now, you know, us fighting for the Haldeman track in court, how can the provincial government sell land to a developer? I could see an individual being able to sell land, but the government itself selling land to someone when they know full well the Haldeman track's in the court system right now. Does anybody know how that works?
Yeah, if I could add, Helen, I don't believe that it was a provincial government. We're aware of all the lands that they own within the Haldeman tract. So we're not aware that they own any lands around Paris, and that you know, that they sold any. So it's probably more like a private developer who has bought some lands, and they're buying significant pieces of land, both within Paris and Brantford, which is a concern because technically we can't do anything to stop it from doing that because, you know, it's in third-party hands, you know, the old argument that we run into. So we don't have authority to stop actual third-party people from transferring land back and forth among themselves. However, we're not letting Ontario off the hook because we are approaching them and saying, whatever provincial approvals that are there that you have to have in regards to any kind of development, we're going to be objecting to approving those until you sit down and talk with us about consultation and accommodation. And that's the tack we're taking. But I'll tell you that now that we can't really stop anything that occurs between third parties other than attempting, and that's our next tack, to attack the provincial approval process.
So the Grand River notification agreement wouldn't notify us of the big sale of this huge land?
It would, if there was a big sale,
I wonder
they're
if
obligated to tell us according
why
to
they did it.
yeah, and so we haven't received any word that has happened. So it's probably between private developers. But otherwise, under the notification agreement, if there is going to be any development, they're required to give us notice of that.
We'll have to keep our eyes open.
Yeah,
I don't even know. You know, I just got this message, and it was a map of Paris, and they showed me this great big piece of land that was sold, and they said the province. But I wondered about that. But even so, the Grand River notification agreement is supposed to let us know like stuff like that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay, so I have Nathan and then Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Helen, for raising that. I actually think we should have kind of a standing briefing note on Bill C-23 because of the impacts of it. And the point around the powers that this bill is going to start having vis-a-vis the environment and approvals of development, especially in the Greenbelt, is kind of concerning. And I'm hearing, I don't have certainty around it because I'm hearing a number of things, both in the newspapers as well as just from contacts I have within Queen's Park. So it would be good just to kind of get straight on exactly what the powers of that bill is going to have, leading into, I can't even remember where it is within the legislative process. So, so it would be good just to kind of have a standing briefing on that because it has such powers and such impacts on our territories.
Thanks, Nathan. Phil?
Yeah, I'm just going back to appreciate Helen bringing this to our attention. Can you give us any more details? Because I would just love somehow to be able to attack this. I agree with Lenny. We've all got an inventory of the provincial lands, but even so, if this is a concern, it's a concern to us on any development. If you could give us more details, Helen, please. Like just in the future.
I could give you more details if I knew how to take a Facebook thing and text thing and put it into an email. I don't know how to do that. But I will try and find out how to do that.
Okay, thank you. I understand that too, what you're saying.
Lonnie?
So Helen, Bill 23 does affect how conservation authorities do operate. It takes away their authority to stop things that are sensitive to the environment in certain circumstances. It's not an overall veto of the conservation authority's mandate, but it does restrict it. The minister can override their objections in certain circumstances. And we have talked to the Conservation Authority. They're concerned about that because that just means they have less protection. I mean, less authority to protect the environment, and they're concerned. Yeah, they've expressed that to us.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie. And any other follow-up to Lonnie and Phil's comments? Okay, hearing none, we have 6-1 on the table, and it is accepting the report from November 22nd to January 2023. Did I say that right? November 2022 to January 2023. Moved by Audrey. And do I have a seconder? And then Taylor, I see your hand up. Seconded by Helen. Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just gonna say, it should say January to February, but I was also gonna say, Peter, do you want to highlight the bus tour that's gonna be happening?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the final item in the activity report is the bus tour that's going to be happening March 23rd to March 24th. We'll be departing here, 10 a.m. on the 23rd, going down to the lake, working our way up to Elora for the evening, and then going up to Dundalk, the source, and then back. As many of you counselors know, we plan to have, some experts, both the, environmental, treaty aspects, and we strongly encourage, counselors to attend. We hope to have, send a, email or a bit more information to you shortly. But yeah, the sooner you can get in touch to reserve your place on the bus, be much appreciated. In the next week or two, you should see some advertisement in the media and social media as well.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Audrey?
Yes, are you going to record it as well as take pictures so that you can keep it like an archival thing? And maybe people who can't make the trip would be able to see and view exactly what you're seeing and hearing. Yeah, well.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can consider. Thanks.
Thanks, Audrey. So we have, Audrey, do you have another question? Okay, so we have the motion moved by Audrey, second by Helen. Any more questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? The motion is carried. So let's now move along to 6.2. And this recommendation says, whereas Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council has been a party of the Grand River Notification Agreement since October 1996. And whereas the Grand River Notification Agreement renews every 5 years and this is a renewal year. And whereas staff from the Lands and Resources Department attended 3 meetings in 2022 with the other parties of the agreement, and they are agreeable to the agreement. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council authorizes Chief Mark B. Hill to sign the 2023 renewal version of the Grand River Notification Agreement. Do I have a mover or seconder? Then I'll open it up. Morning, Melba. Melba has joined us in the chambers. Helen,
I'll move
question, or are you
that,
gonna
yeah.
move? Hazel, was that you?
Yes, it was.
Perfect. And Helen, will you second, or do you have a question?
Whatever. Move or second. I was moving, but I can second.
Okay, moved by Hazel, second by Helen. Any questions in regards to the renewal of the Grand River notification agreement? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. So with that, your two motions have been approved, Lands and Resources. So thank you for being with us on the open session.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along to Community Services and Support Director reports. So we have a policy records and communication report from December to January 2023, 2022 to 2023. And so the motion reads that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council accept policy records and communication report December to January report as information. Do I have a mover to accept those reports? Greg? Seconder? So that's 16. Seconder? Audrey? Anybody have questions in regards to the reports that Dwayne has submitted to us? Audrey, then Helen.
Yes, I'd like to see names attached to these reports.
Okay,
And who wrote that report?
I would think that would be Dwayne. Dwayne was here earlier, but I do believe he's on. Is he online?
Yeah, all the names should be attached all the time. We shouldn't have to keep guessing who's writing what. You know, we don't really know what people are doing and what they should be doing. And if this is his job and that's his report, then he should own it.
Thanks. So Darren, you've heard that. Trevor's on the line as well. Helen, then Hazel.
Yeah. When I was reading it, and I think it's called a section about disconnect. I can't remember exactly what it said, but disconnect, where they're looking at developing policies where people can work from home and people can work at work and then they can work from home, that kind of thing. I don't recall council ever discussing that or deciding to have people work from home. So I'm questioning, why would we be doing a policy on it if we've never talked about that? I know it's administration, but at the same time, I think the fact that we're looking at people working from home is really very important to council, because we're getting reports from different councillors every week about how people are getting frustrated because nobody's in the office and nobody's answering phones, and we don't know whether people are working from home or what they're doing. We've often questioned how come there's still people working from home ourselves, but yet our policy is developing a policy where people can work from home. So I'm just wondering where that came from, because we've never talked about doing that.
So I just want to correct, I think it's been brought to the table many times. Right?
It has been brought to the table many times, and it's mostly because people are complaining when nobody's, but we're always saying, how come everybody's still working from home?
So it was
I mean, I'm talking
understanding-
about, we've never talked about doing a policy like that. So I'm just wondering where it's coming from.
So Darren, can you shed some light on this? Because I know we've had this discussion.
Yeah, this was in response to a number of things. The concerns have been brought a few times, so we are going to work with the SAT team to look at the nature of the roles, the ones that are front facing and are required to answer and call back. Those need to be a consideration in any policy we develop in a hybrid. We're looking at a hybrid working environment. So some roles it doesn't work for, it just doesn't. And others, it can be accommodated depending on, because we have spatial concerns as well with office space. But there is also legislation in the province, which is the right to disconnect. So that's where that word comes from, where that phrase comes from. We're not provincially regulated, as everyone knows. But of course, employees see this, and whether people realize it or not, when people work from home, they actually put in a lot more time than they do in the office. I know this for a fact for myself and others that I've talked to. The points are well taken, however. So it's not like it's like everybody has a right to disconnect at all times. It depends on the nature of the job, and there's a need to report. There's a need to check in. There's a need to have deliverables. So all of these are elements to our policy. So we're not looking at straight adoption, but we need to be sensitive to our employees seeing what's happening elsewhere. And again, it's a retention. It's required for retention. So it's a work in progress, and I'll definitely take it back to our team and make sure HR as well as Dwayne make sure that we're cognizant of all of those concerns. But that's one of the part of it is understanding the nature of the roles, and when people are hired into specific roles, they need to be in the office. And if they aren't able to be in the office because of sickness or what have you, that there's either a backup or that a response is provided within 24 hours. So there's a lot there, but there's a lot to the policy.
Thanks, Darren. Any further questions in regards to, I see Hazel and then Audrey.
I was just gonna ask if Brooke could probably send me that background information that would have gone into the Dropbox. I'm unable to open my iPad and read that information. So just asking if I could have the background so I could follow up and read it. Thank you.
Audrey?
Yeah, my question is, Darren, will this whole thing be monitored and then revised if it's not working? And will there be schedules kept so that this can be analyzed for data to see how well it is working and to see if there is anybody who's abusing the system? And if there are people who are going way over and above and beyond, it would be nice to have them recognized as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all part of the process because we want to do something that works for us. But we also have to be sensitive to how our employees are seeing other working environments around us. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. So with that, we have a motion on the floor to accept the written report from December to January. Is this something we want to move forward? Do I have a mover?
I'll move, Nathan.
Thanks, Nathan. And a seconder? Greg. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. So for scheduling, it is blank. I don't know. Tammy, do you have anything that the chief will be doing for the rest of the week? I know that the next 3 days we are here in budgets. But
That's the only thing that I have.
for this upcoming week?
That I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay. So Tammy is in the chambers with us, and yeah, Tuesday through Thursday, Chief and Council will be here. Doing the 2023-24 budgets. So moving along, do I have any counselor reports for this past 2 weeks? Okay, hearing nothing. With that, that's all we have on today's agenda. Can I have someone move to adjourn the open session?
I'll move, Nathan.
Thanks, Nathan. Seconder? Helen, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, community. It was a very short agenda. And we will see everybody, I think, a week Tuesday night. Take care.